Paper cutting is a human art. It is not limited to one culture, one religion. It is something that we can all take part in. Where there's paper, there is paper cutting. My name is Sarah Nguyen. I am a multimedia artist who works primarily in paper. I do hand-cut paper cuttings. It's also known as fiber cutting. And storytelling is a huge part of the themes to my pieces. I've always done art. Art is how I communicate in the world. It's how I sort of see the world and translate what I see and put it down into paper or paintings or drawings. I went on a variety of artist residencies that allowed me to sort of explore different mediums and the meanings of different mediums in my work. So I attended a residency in Japan where I learned paper making and mokuhanga. And I learned this word called kami, which is a word that means spirit or soul or beings placed higher. It's also the same word, different character, for the word paper. And at that point, after learning how to make different paper scrolls, I realized that I would love to work with a medium that is imbued with this idea of the spirit and the soul and make it the primary character of my work, not just work that would receive mediums, but something that could live and breathe. So later on, as I was trying to investigate how to do this, I had an artist residency in France, and I went with a group of scientists, anthropologists, and archaeologists, and we were studying cave art, rock art from the Cave of Lascaux. And one of the most important events that happened was we went into the cave, the replica cave, and our guide shut off all the lights to this cave and held up a lighter. And he walks around, and in this firelit lighting, all the drawings start to move. And at that point, the Picasso quote after he visited the caves of Lascaux came to mind, where he came out and he said, "We have learned nothing in this time, we have invented nothing." And I realized at that point that these shadows that were being constructed from these drawings, from the cave walls themselves, were creating moving pictures, were creating movies. And our prehistoric ancestors are doing something that we do today. And I wanted that effect to be part of the work that I do. So what ended up happening is I started to incorporate paper cutting, fiber cutting into my work to create shadow drawings. Now, this also relates to work that I did as a child, where I grew up making traditional Jewish paper cuts. And these are a folk art. It's similar to making snowflakes, if you will, or Valentines. And then we would give those as gifts, as a mitzvah, something that we would give during a birth, when someone got married, or even as a condolence card. The way I approach a piece is every piece has a story. I often work in series. Right now I am working on a series that talks about mythology about the full moon. So I title each one of these pieces using the United States indigenous names for the full moon, such as this is October moon, it's the hunter's moon. Some of the imagery that is in this particular piece is a fox. If you see any kind of animal, that's great. Maple leaves, and of course the full moon. And often these series are limited to certain icons and elements that you can find also in European cultures, South American cultures, as well as United States. shades. And so I will roll out the piece. I will measure the length of the piece that I want it to be, and I will draw basically a border, and then I do a rough sketch on the piece itself. It is very rough, it is very light, because it's extremely difficult to erase on this material. This material is waterproof as well, so it is difficult to hold paint in addition to that. And then I will basically start from the top and just start cutting across. Left to right, right to left. Kind of depends. Sometimes I get into a groove, and all the cuts that you see in all of the work are improvised. And it's that simple. I'm asked, how do I know when I get to the end? And I say, I just get to the end, and there's the end of it. And that shows me that the piece is completed. After these pieces, some of them are painted. And so I will paint the piece afterwards. I will use spray paint, because that will adhere to the surface, or I will use a mixture of acrylic paint as well to adhere to the surface. So yeah, that is kind of how I do my work. So with every place that I go to and visit or have a residency, the very first thing that I do is research the folklore of that place. And Tennessee folklore is made up of ghost stories, which I'm working in October, so it's the perfect season for it. But I have never been in a place that has had so many ghost stories than this state. And it's really interesting to me. Folklore touches our lives in so many ways that we're not even aware of, but we grow up with folklore and we grow up with these stories, and it's in every culture. So part of the exhibit here at Cheekwood is a very long scroll piece that I made, which is titled Little Sister, the Bell Witch. A very famous fable story from Tennessee, and I'm not going to visit that cave. And it is very much inspired by that idea. At the same time, it has been inspired by my walks in the gardens at Cheekwood. So during my time here, the Bruce Monroe show is going on. You will see orbs all around this Bell Witch. And you also see butterflies floating everywhere, because it's unseasonably warm. We are surrounded by all these pollinators. You see various spiders and spider webs, which again is the season for it. And then I love these entangled juniper tree bushes that are right outside of the mansion, and you can see those twisted branches within the piece. The pieces that are going to be exhibited at Cheekwood are grouped into various series that I have done over the last 10 years or so. And these pieces are broken up into family portrait pieces. There's also a grouping of work based on the idea of kami, which is all storytelling work that I did during my time in Japan, so very large paper scrolls during that time. There is work that is based strictly on traditional Jewish paper cutting. And that work is titled Hamza. There is also a series called Women from the Old Testament, and it readdresses those stories as people who had great burdens in their life, who were oppressed and struggling, and how they overcame those things. And there's another series called 52 Mitzvahs. These pieces were done as gifts to myself. I would take a walk outside and look at things that really gave me joy and happiness. It's primarily the work that you will be able to explore and experience in these galleries. And I do suggest to everyone coming into the gallery is to approach the pieces as you would a sculpture, because these are not two-dimensional pieces. They're three-dimensional or more pieces. These are shadow theater pieces. I often refer to them as shadow drawings or shadow play. They move when you move. They interact with your body and your light or absence of light. And the story is revealed within the shadows. So certainly approach them head on in terms of seeing all that lacy detail, all those hand-cut pieces that I've done, but then go behind and see what's revealed to you.